I'm Bookface, and welcome to Just Like Kaiju, a series where we look at folklore monsters that defined a kaiju before Godzilla made it cool. So prepare your volcanoes, incredible warriors, virgin sacrifices, and powerful magic weapons. What was that other one? That out of the way, let's jump right in. Woo! So today we're talking about the Charufe, this giant thing that comes from the myths of the Mapuche and Araucanian people of Chile and Argentina. Now, I say thing because it's not entirely clear what it actually is. So if you do the basic level of research, you get a general idea of what the Charufe is. But if you go into deeper research like I do, because I'm a nerd, you find a lot of variation, because turns out mythology doesn't have a set canon. So in my research, I found 4 relatively distinct forms of things called Charufe. It's worth noting that these are purely my observations. I haven't seen them listed off like this anywhere else, so take it as you will. I have research you can look at later if you think I sound like a crazy person. So the first form is more like animals, with these usually being referred to as cryptids. Though, despite the fact that I've read plenty of things saying that there is a cryptid version of the Charufe that's a giant lizard man, I haven't actually been able to find the Charufe in any of my cryptozoology books. Offhand, I'd probably just say this is the general cryptozoology thing of saying every mythical creature is based on some weird animal, no matter how ridiculously complex and in-depth it is. Looking at all y'all casually calling skinwalkers and wendigos cryptids. Knock it off. The second form is pretty similar to the cryptid form, just with more mythical aspects. This version is a species of creatures that fell to Earth in the form of comets, and are described as cannibalistic giants. These giants prey on anything that comes into their territory, and yeah, they're pretty much the same as the first version, just with some mystic qualities to spice it up a bit. The third form is kinda like a vague nature spirit of fire. This version of the Charufe can be wielded by Kalku, the evil magic users in Mapuche myth. And this form of Charufe isn't just like a small population of creatures, it is like countless little things. Mentions of this one in my research are more vague, so I wouldn't be surprised if Charufe in this context was just some sort of catch-all term for fire spirits, or any mystical thing relating to fire. The final form is the one we're actually going to be talking about at length, both because this one had the most information and is also super cool and fits with my theming. And this is where we get the straight-up kaiju version of the Charufe. Some important things to note. This Charufe is not a species. This version of the Charufe is one singular entity. So, to avoid confusion, I'm just going to call it Big Charufe, Big C if I feel lazy, even though I just spent all this time defining, so I don't really need to do that. I like giving horrific monsters nicknames, alright? This is not new information. So Big Charufe lived in magma pools and active volcanoes. He was capable of causing earthquakes and eruptions, but could be appeased with a virgin sacrifice. Really, Big C? That's a little cliche, don't you think? So the people would take our unlucky contestant and eat him into the lava. And after Big C ate the sacrifice, he'd remove the head and chuck it back out while it's still on fire. That's just rude. Who raised you? Actually, seriously, who raised you? What are you? Big Charufe was also known to sometimes just lumber around and killing people nearby just through his sheer body heat. Interesting thing I looked up, you can actually get a lot closer to lava without dying than I thought, so this would mean that Big Charufe here is significantly hotter than actual magma. So yeah, while other interpretations of the Charufe are your typical folklore monster, Big Charufe was viewed more like a veritable god of destruction. And how do you strike down a malicious god? With powers from another god. Perhaps a god in the machine. I'm telling you, this is just a kaiju movie plot. So the story goes that a somewhat ambiguous sun god, he goes unnamed in my research, so I'm left to assume this refers to Antu, since that's the god of the sun in Mapuche myth. But note, I did not research that, so I could be wrong. I don't know if there's more sun gods. Egyptian myth has like 3, 4, or 5, I don't know, a lot. They put the sun on everything. He sent his 2 daughters down from the heavens, and these daughters wielded magic swords from space that were freezing cold. And man, that sounds so awesome. Magic space ladies, super powerful ice swords, and a giant lava monster. One epic anime fight scene later, and the daughters of the sun god push Big Charufe back into the lava, defeating him. But here's the problem though. Like I said earlier, Big Charufe was less like a folkloric monster, more like a cruel deity. And it turns out, those don't die very easy. Cause yeah, Big Charufe is actually thought to be completely unkillable, and would presumably still be alive today. Glad I don't live near a volcano. Also, while the daughters of the sun god stand guard to make sure Big Charufe stays in place, it does sometimes get out and go on a rampage before they chase it back into the magma. Shoot, get back in there. I told you to stay put. So there we have the Charufe, an interesting monster with some bizarre complexity if you look into it. If you want to see my research in a more organized format, because this video really needs it, I put all my research, sources, and so many drawings on my website, linked in the description. Also, even though I don't deserve money for this, I have a Patreon if you disagree for some reason. And if you like this video, please leave a thumbs up, comment down below, and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye!